My dear, they're mad because you touched a part of them they kept buried in silence. They said you took their comfort, but you were only trying to save your own. You gave them a taste of heaven, and now they curse the hunger. They hate you for choosing peace over their chaos. You stole their control simply by not needing their permission. They called it betrayal, but it was your rebirth. They loved the version of you that bled quietly. You're not the thief. They just never learned how to hold something sacred. You didn't take their calm. You reminded them of their storm. They don't miss you. They miss the power they had over your heart. You weren't a mistake. You were the mirror they smashed. They blame you for leaving, but you were the one who stayed too long. Your glow exposed what they tried to keep in the dark. They said you stole their courage, but you only lit your own fire. You walked away, and they called it war. They call you cold, but never mention the frost they fed you. You were the closure they refused to accept. Their anger is just the echo of your absence. They can't stand that you survived without needing their apology. You were the calm they weaponized. They said you took their crown, but you never wanted the throne. Their bitterness is louder than their love ever was. They miss your wounds more than your healing. You didn't take their choice. They gave it up when they silenced yours. They wanted a puppet, but you grew a spine. You didn't steal their silence. You just stopped screaming into it. They miss controlling you, not caring for you. You didn't ruin them. You revealed them. They envy your peace because it no longer includes them. They can't forgive you for no longer needing their validation. They called your boundaries betrayal. You became the villain in their story the moment you wrote your own ending. They said you took everything, but you only walked away with your soul. They're not grieving your absence. They're mourning their manipulation. You didn't take their comfort. You outgrew their chaos. They miss the broken you they could fix. You stopped breaking for them, and now they break over you. They called it abandonment. You called it self-rescue. You were the chapter they tried to erase, but never stopped reading. They don't want you back. They want their power back. You didn't steal their joy. You stopped giving them yours. They said you took too much when you only took back your voice. Your silence is louder than any apology they never gave. They called you heartless after they starved your heart. You didn't hurt them. You stopped letting them hurt you. They miss your loyalty, not your presence. You chose truth, and they chose rage. You didn't abandon them. They rejected your awakening. Their pain was your prison until you found the key. You stopped apologizing, and they started punishing. They wanted a savior. You gave them a mirror. You weren't cruel. you were finally honest. They don't miss you, they miss controlling your light. You didn't break them, they were already cracked. You were blamed for what they did in your name. They cried betrayal the moment you chose yourself. You didn't ruin their life, you ended their illusion. They said you took their calm, but you were their chaos all along. They feared your love because it saw too much. You didn't hurt them, you became their consequence. They miss the version of you that didn't know better. They call your peace disrespect. You weren't their healer, you were their escape plan. You didn't take their chance, you just stopped giving second ones. They hate that your happiness doesn't need their permission. They wanted you weak enough to need them. You became the villain when you stopped bleeding for applause. They didn't lose you, you returned to yourself. They miss your pain because it made them feel powerful. You weren't their enemy, you were their unhealed wound. You left, and they called it violence. They labeled your growth as betrayal. You didn't steal anything, they never gave it willingly. They're mad you survived what they swore would destroy you. They never wanted love, they wanted ownership. You weren't the problem, you were the proof. You stopped shrinking, and suddenly they felt small. You chose clarity, and they chose chaos. They miss your silence, not your soul. They don't hate you, they hate your freedom. You didn't take their light, you found your own. You broke their spell by waking up. You weren't too much, you were just finally full. They blame you for the emptiness they created. They miss your surrender, not your presence. You weren't ungrateful, you were just done. You didn't choose revenge, you chose release. They said you changed, but you finally became real. They'll call you selfish for what they always took. You left the cage, and they called it betrayal. They said you took their calm, but you were their storm disguised as comfort. If this touched your soul, don't scroll, like, comment your favorite quote, and subscribe for more.